Rockstar is a veteran in producing video games. They've been doing it for a couple of decades, and they can actually finish their game, unlike some developers. Bully, LA Noire, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption. These games gather so much cash that it can pay for a semester of American higher education and cover a medical bill. Something happened in 2013 though. When Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, it later came out with one of the first online experiences, only to be rivaled by the launch of Fallout 76 for being an absolute disaster. After the servers were patched up about a dozen times, Rockstar realized how they could start loan sharking their customers. My jokes swim in brilliance. This mentality infected a little-known game called Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, the single player was handled fantastically. I even talked about it. The story, 10 out of 10. The graphics and art style shouldn't be able to run on a PlayStation, but it did. They've been downgraded for online though, and they still look beautiful. The sound effects, crispy. The original soundtrack and score, brilliant. The gameplay, it's aimbot the spaghetti western. Seriously, if you're on console, the aim assist is stupidly high and necessary in order to actually play. The only people that rival the aim assist are the AI, both in this game and Grand Theft Auto. The tune of the game does a complete 180 when you load up the online tab. At first glance, it looks like GTA Online, but in 1899. This view is completely wrong. Red Dead Online was designed to be a fountain of gold for Rockstar, with no care for the well-being of the game in general. For it to be actually entertaining, or even worth investing time into, was irrelevant. All it was needed to do was to keep the cash flowing. It did this with a monetization scheme even more scummy than in Grand Theft Auto. The microtransactions of Grand Theft Auto Online is simply cash. Real money for game money. Simple. Red Dead Online goes for a more mobile model. You have dollars and gold. Dollars is the currency you earn exclusively by playing the game, and gold can be earned by completing missions or buying it with real-world cash. How is this system more scummy? First, gold allows players to bypass a lot of content that is restricted by huge prices. Normally, a player would have to grind and get the cash in order to afford these guns, but gold will allow them to just skip all of that. The second and primarily scummy way this system works against you is what I'm going to call intentional overinvestment. If there's an actual official term for what I'm about to describe, just let me know, because I haven't been able to find it. To give you an example of what I mean, say you want to buy a gun that costs 600 gems, but the game's cheapest option for in-game currency is 1100 for $10. After buying the gems and the gun, you're left with 500 gems. There is nothing in this shop that can be bought for 500 gems, but you have the currency sitting there, waiting to be used, and the company behind this scheme is trying to use your desire to get rid of unneeded currency by buying more of it. Most games with microtransactions do this, but how Red Dead does it is utterly scummy. First, the cheapest option is $10. Second, cash and gold can't both be used for one purchase. It's one or the other. Say you wanted a wagon that costs $100 or 5 gold. You may have $99.99 and 4.99 gold, but you can't buy it. This is despite your cumulative worth being able to afford it. So what happens if you still want that wagon? Get ready to do tedious, forced gunfight missions. From the mission, you'll mostly get what? $5? Maybe $15? If you did it perfectly? With the examples above, it doesn't sound that bad. But imagine if we were going to use the actual price of a wagon, specifically the Bounty Hunter wagon, at around 30-something gold or $850. This ends up becoming a recurring issue, and when it gets even worse is through gold-exclusive transactions. Yes, they exist, and I hate them. The Moonshiners cost 25 gold to buy a property. That is literally $10. The only reason why I was able to afford it was due to a sale giving me the same amount of gold for $5. To add the final cherry on top, you could buy gold during the beta. This game has been injected with so much American venom. I mean, you really had to see that one coming. Okay, so this part is shoehorned into the script due to an update being released the day this script was completed. But that doesn't matter. What does matter is they're pulled the same crap again. It is $10 to start this new update. $10. Alright, so a company really wants money. That's nothing new. CEOs like money, and people like profiting off of complaining about how some people make too much of it. At least the gameplay is enjoyable. Which, it is. Gunslinging shootouts are an absolute blast in this game. You feel like the Terminator with a hillbilly outfit, doming a couple dozen guys every hour. Eventually, though, this manner of gameplay gets boring. Very boring. Rockstar knew it would get boring, so they implemented different kinds of combat. You've got melee, you've got explosives, you've got finishers, you've got throwing knives, you've got stealth, and none of these are viable. There will never be a situation where it is the better idea to run to the guy to get that awesome finisher than it is to simply stand back with a repeater and headshot everyone. Due to this mechanical oversight, despite Red Dead having all the elements for a varied Western sandbox, it fails to deliver with every form of combat but shooting, and it makes this game boring. To add the 25 gold cherry on top, there are times that you do succeed with the alternative tactics, and it is awesome. Alright, this is a slight spoiler, but it's Red Dead Online, who cares about spoilers? There's a legendary bounty mission where you have to capture a female outlaw. You team up with detectives that lure the outlaw to some factory, except there are 3 other lookalikes, and you have to determine which one is which. What was probably the intention was for you to start lassoing or blasting, and have to hurriedly figure out which girl you need to take in alive. But the girls don't know that you are hanging around them before the shooting starts, and you can get close enough to them to be able to identify them without having to go full Rambo. So I snuck up on the women and checked to see if they're the real one or not. Out of context, that sounds like a line from a Weinstein script. Anyway, I sneak up and check each one and figure out the last girl's the real one. Once that happened, the one with the bounty told everyone that it was a trap, and everyone began to scram. At that moment, I snuck up on the real person and captured her alive. Her posse was too busy running away. I left, bounty in hand, through a back entrance, and was able to turn her in. I wasn't caught, nobody died, and it was absolutely the best bounty mission I've ever played. It was a fun change of pace, never having to shoot a single bullet. The target even comments how I did it with no bloodshed. I have had one gameplay experience like this. In my 50 hours of gameplay. 50. 5-0. Red Dead encourages mindless shooting, even if the place looks like you can stealth it. No, you can't. Every enemy is stacked on top of each other, so when you get rid of one, you're spotted. If somehow you don't get mad with the microtransactions, and somehow love the repetitive grind of this game, then get ready to do it for a long time. A long time. Before I continue with this point, this issue predated the virus that shan't be named. I understand that the city of Wuhan basically crippled the entirety of the gaming industry. I get that. This issue, though, did predate this virus and stability drops in the nations, aka the United States. The rest of the world are simply American colonies. What? We inherited that gene from the motherland. What am I talking about? The lack of content. From the time of writing this, there has been around a 9-month gap between the latest updates for Red Dead Online, specifically the Moonshiners till now. The rest were bugged and stability patches. Compare this with Grand Theft Auto 5. Since it's the older game, you would expect the focus of Rockstar to shift towards their new IP. The most recent update of Grand Theft Auto 5 was December of 2019, the Diamond Casino heist. The update before was the Diamond Casino and Resort released in July. So the older game's update gap was around 6 months, and the new one's is around 9 months. Also, Grand Theft Auto 5 is the game getting the remaster for the PlayStation 5. As of this moment, the game that came out in 2018 isn't getting a rework, but the one that came out in 2013 is? This would honestly be fine if the content was worth the wait. Sadly though, it hasn't been. I can't address if the content added recently is good or bad, but the amount of it for the time it took to develop is simply not worth it. I hope from the time you have invested into watching a Halo character bob his head while talking about Red Dead Online, that you're convinced that this game has been abandoned by its creator. Anyway, I'm Ash Awesome, and political content creators have around 100 days to prepare for the utter crap show known as the 2020 election. Anyway, see ya.